My name is Ami Lee. Welcome. I am the Director of Public Health Initiatives with SE International. We are a training institute headquartered out of Boulder, Colorado, that actually does trainings around the globe for therapists and mental health providers, body workers, alternative medicine providers, even first responders, teachers, all kinds of folks on how to use neurobiological methods to resolve or reset traumatic experiences. It's a really profound modality if you haven't heard about it, but don't be warned. This is not, okay, this is the opposite of a warning. Let me rephrase that. This is not a commercial. We're not trying to sell you our training. We are a charitable institution who has created this series in the domain of public health to bring current topics that are prevalent in the public health sphere to the forefront and add our perspective, our lens of like neurobiological resources and somatic experiencing to these particular prevalent topics as our charitable offering. So really, we want you to walk away with all the kinds of tools, support, resources, and inspiration that could benefit you in your profession. Okay, so that's what you can count on from us today. And hey, if you want to learn more about somatic experience, I mean, I'm not going to not let you. We're going to give you any kind of resources you need to learn and do what you do in life better, because man, it's a big world and we're all responsible for a lot, aren't we? Especially teachers. So today's topic is called the Hidden Mental Health Professionals. It's a little bit of a series we're doing, and our focus is on teachers. You didn't have to look hard to find that population as a hidden mental health professional, right? Last month we were doing educators, and we realized everyone in the room with us was actually a school counselor. They had like some kind of, they were educators also, but they were also counselors. So they were in that role. But there's this thing about people who are not counselors at all, teachers and educators who still hold this really interesting gravitas and relationship to the mental health and well-being of their students. So I've been doing this series for a while. I'll share something just a little more personal to get to know y'all too, because it always moves me to be able to be with you and share a little bit of the inspiration for this particular population. Several years ago, okay, more than several, a while back, I was invited up to the Belcourt-Dunseith region of North Dakota, right on the border of Canada, to the Turtle Mountain community. So shout out to all the people of the Turtle Mountain. Great love there, the Chippewa people specifically. But while I was there, I thought I would be doing social work and like kind of support for the community in that way. And next thing you know, they threw me in the deep end and said, you're going to be an aide and assistant in kindergarten and first grade. Oh my, what? For me, that was like a moment of absolute terror. Like in our world, we would call it like, I didn't just have a freeze response. I had a frozen freeze, like not a functional freeze. Like, I don't want to be responsible for these little ones. Both myself and the one who was the actual teacher were very young. We didn't have kiddos. I didn't know anything about how to educate small children. I was terrified that they were not going to know how to read or do math. And I could just envision every day, like the fallout of damaging them by not being a good teacher. Oh my gosh. I really got the courage and compassion and like just whole chutzpah it takes to jump in the trenches with little creatures, like middle age, like even university students, with anyone, to try and teach them something and become responsible for their learning. Wow, I really got the courage of that. Now, the good news is, over the time I was there, man, those little kiddos' brains just bloomed in front of my face. We almost couldn't mess them up at that age, is what it felt like, right? Like there was a certain point they just started to click and get that 2 + 2 was 4, and how to put together a word and that not to write the letters backwards. But I was a little nervous the whole while. But here's another side of that. So there we were. I remember there was one of the students was showing a lot of interesting personality issues. We were talking amongst the teaching staff of is this child on the spectrum, trying to understand if maybe that there was some neurodivergent behavior or things becoming evident. But he was super brilliant. He was reading really complex things, at 5 years old, but then also socially had some different issues and a lot of temper tantrums that were pretty extreme. And then there was another student who was like upside down in his chair every day. It was like, what do you do with this kiddo? He's upside down, like he couldn't teach a class because he was just so everywhere. He had so much energy coursing through his body. And I recall being with the parents and the other teachers and the principals, and we were, please don't judge me for this, but we were saying things like, oh, I wonder if they're on the spectrum, or I wonder if this one has ADHD, or, what's going on at home? Maybe this person is having some reactive disorder. None of us were qualified or trained to make a diagnosis like that. But yet in our role, we were becoming uniquely responsible for that little one's well-being, for each one of not just their ability to learn the information, like, okay, that's a thing, but also we could see their behavior, we could see their cognitive processing, and we could see their obstacles that might look like they could become more down the road. That's when I really got that teachers and educators hold a mental health role in our world, but may not be seen as that, because they're having to continuously make assessments, evaluate what they're seeing, decide when they're going to try to work with the student one-on-one, or send them to some other body. Maybe there is a school counseling or an evaluation, aspect of the school or institution you're involved with, or the principal, or maybe, and hey, here's what we know a lot of, maybe they're going to be diagnosed as bad and wrong or problem children, and sent off because we don't understand the mental issues or the cognitive or the neurobiological, physiological issues that might be present. My goodness, what an immense responsibility is hidden in that role. Just immense. So today's guests are going to be talking about things like this, and you have questions, you'll be able to ask them. They're all trained educators at different levels. You'll hear about that. But they're also all trained in somatic experiencing, this neurobiological method of trauma resolution, which drew them to the table for this conversation. We all get it. We get the role you play, and we want to be a resource. So I want to invite you, Carol, Michael, Mina, if you could go ahead and turn on your videos, come on screen with us. Let's start to get to know you and spend some time together. Hi, there you are. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us. It really takes something to commit to take time out of your life and share from your own experience and to offer it for others. Really, I already get that each of you is a huge contribution to life. And thank you for choosing to live that way. That's a choice. Thank you. No pressure though. Now you have to say everything brilliant and be perfect. You're teachers. You're gonna have so much fun. You're gonna have so much fun, and we're gonna have fun with you. So first fun, I want us to get to know you. Go ahead and introduce yourselves if you wouldn't mind. Raise your hand if you're going to be the one who goes first. I'll let y'all battle it out.
Michael is going to go first.
Oh, cool. Michael, you got signed up. Okay, here's what you get. Here's my invitation. We start the series with a question. The question is, when you saw that you're invited to speak at something called Hidden Mental Health Professionals Teachers, something about that called to you, something resonated, you got something about that. Let us know a little bit about you in terms of why did that even provoke you to participate today? I'm going to pop off screen. I'll be back on screen when people ask questions and things like that and get them to interact with you all. But mostly I'm going to stay in the background and just let you all chat amongst yourself. But Michael?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mina. Well, I would say that it actually really closely connects with your story, Amy, which is when you have that child in front of you who's hanging off their chair upside down, or the other kid who's just always has their head down on the desk, or the other kid who's running laps around the classroom, that kind of experience for a lot of people can be very overwhelming. For a lot of teachers, I mean, who gets training to intercede for a child who's hanging upside down? I mean, it's not in the curriculum. And what I guess is very important to me is the message that I want to share with other teachers is to really kind of do what Ami was talking about, which is to not just see the kid who's hanging upside down or who's running around the room, but to see the whole person and their whole story, and actually get to know that child and to really get to understand what's going on. And it's not, I know it looks like a misbehavior or a diagnosis of some sort, but there's more going on there usually than the person has moderate behavior disorder or what have you. So to see the whole person, like what is their backstory? Where are they coming from? Did they have breakfast today? What is their state of sense of self and who they are as a person? What are they told every day as far as the messaging they're getting from teachers and parents and other adults in their life? So to see the whole person, not just the person you see in front of you. Yeah. Now you, Mina.
Hey, gotcha.
Sweet revenge, Michael. So I have so much respect for mental health workers, psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, counselors, you name it. I think they have a really invaluable role in the lives of children as well as adults. In my role as special education teacher, I do not believe that I find that evaluating a child, a stranger evaluating a child who may already have some sensations, arousals, sensations of, I don't want to see strangers, I'm not comfortable in my skin, would create a profile on paper that may not match the child. And so and that has been my experience. I've had children who were considered mild to severely autistic. And I was like, after getting to know them a little bit on their time, not on my time, I noticed that they were so smart. They had a lot of potential, but that potential was not on their evaluation, on their neuropsych or psychoeducational evaluation. And so I started working with the child in front of me and my relationship with the child. And even so, I felt that I am not a mental health worker. I'm not going to diagnose anybody. And I'm going to take the freedom of working with the child for what is presented to me. And I have to say, it's been an incredible journey, especially after I decided there was something else I'm not getting, in which case some angel told me about somatic experiencing training. And I took that. I learned about shock trauma. Early developmental trauma was not really discussed in depth at that time during my training. And then I went into early developmental training, and it was just like the missing pieces of the puzzle started coming together. And I'm very, very grateful for that. And it's made a big difference, particularly now that we have the polyvagal theory that has been introduced by Dr. Stephen Porges since 1994. And Deb Dana brought it into the mainstream. All right, Carol, you're it.
Okay. Thank you, Mina and Michael. It's so nice to be with you. And it's such an honor to be with so many teachers. Like you, I've been isolated a fair bit the last few years. But I get teachers. I am a teacher, and I hope I have something to offer you today. So just a little bit about me, and then we'll see where this rolls. I think I've been a stealth mental health worker since I was born. And I probably didn't quite realize it till I was a teenager, when I started to realize that I was processing the world very differently than the people around me. And that was a little problematic for my family, perhaps, probably difficult for my parents. And I thought, I'm not like everybody else. Well, the good news is I found out I was an artist. And in that, I'm not like everybody else, but I'm very comfortable being that person. And then I soon discovered that I could use art to heal some of the parts of me that felt a little hurt or different or didn't quite fit. That all of a sudden, this struggling teenager could use art and I would have a voice and people would go, oh, look at what Carol made. And then I could use the process of art to work through some feelings. And I can use the identity of art to say, I'm going to try showing up this way. Hey, that works. I'll call it art. I've been told that at about 15, I forced my brothers and sisters, all 6 of them, and the neighbor kids to go into the basement of my house, which is like a little finished basement, sit at folding tables and taught them art. I don't know if that's wholly true, but I clearly became a teacher of art at that time too. And I have been teaching art in every level, in many places, in several countries for 40 something years. A lot of it has been on the younger level, but the last 30 years has been on the university level. And I realized that even to say I teach art is probably not really accurate. I think I teach how to be living or in life more artfully. And I'm much more interested in the process of the arts to heal self and community. I've been an artist and a teacher doing stealth mental health through the entire AIDS epidemic, the day the Twin Towers fell, the day the pandemic began. I worked, as you did, on Zoom, figuring out what is a space and how do I get them to show up and how do I actually be present. And even now through the start of the new war. And so I hope that I can offer to you both my appreciation for all that you've been doing all of your life, and also maybe a little bit of stuff from me. I will say that about 6 years ago, I recognized that my desire to help and my self-taught art can heal wasn't quite enough for the size of the problems that I was encountering in the university classroom. And at that time, I did decide to return for yet another degree and become a mental health counselor and an expressive arts therapist, so I could use all of the arts as this stealth approach to mental health. And then I added that SEP, that somatic experiencing piece, which tied it up in a bow. And I think that probably was what I was trying to figure out even as a kid, working with my own stuff. How do I regulate? How do I separate for just a minute, detach without leaving? How do I know what my body does when it's stuck and how to get unstuck? So I'm glad to be with my colleagues today, with Ami and with Mina and with Michael, and I'm very glad to be with you. And let's kick it off, shall we?
So Michael.
Yes, Mina.
I love their rapport because then I can sit back for a minute.
She's been waiting this whole time just to like.
She's been planning. We'll gang up on her later, Michael.
Okay, I agree, Carol. Let's do
Okay.
that.
Michael, no, I know you've taught in many different countries.
Yes.
And I'm very interested in that because, you know, we're in the United States. No, you're in Canada. You're in Vancouver Island in British Columbia, correct? In Canada.
In Victoria.
Victoria.
Yeah.
But before that, could you so this is what I'd like to find out about from your background and your experience of how you were able to relate to your students, given the curriculum that you had to teach and the school infrastructure, right? Your role as a teacher, and you had, you know, what you were tasked to do, and then the problems, because you lived in so many different places. How did you handle the context with the co-regulation of the students, and then the connection with them as well as the principals and administrators? Just a tiny question for you.
So you're basically asking how he did it all at once.
Yeah, and what the differences were. Was there like one system that you thought was like, ooh, they've got it?
Well, I don't know if there's any one, often what I would do is be hired to teach at a certain school in a certain country and work in that school. But I would do what I would do at any classroom, which is close my door and do what I do best, which is to relate to the students, create that rapport and teach them and be taught by them as well, of course. And before I got into somatic experiencing, the best thing that I ever learned was from I think his name's Jensen, Teaching with the Brain in Mind, and it's about teaching to first a body that's in front of you who might be hungry, who might be tired, who might not have slept, to teach to the body, teach to safety. In other words, help them feel safe, help them, and this is really key, that for a lot of children, doesn't matter whether they come from well-to-do families or really poor families, school is often the safest place they have. So just to create that warm, nurturing, safe place for children, so that it created that rich, delicious soup for them to learn and to nourish them.
What I hear you saying, Michael, is you made a safe container.
Yes.
And that before any curriculum happens, you create that rapport. And maybe not even just seeing them, but seeing all that they might become. It's like seeing them with a curiosity, not with a I know, because they might be 4, 15, 24. They're not done cooking, and most of them, I work with college students and their brains haven't even, the two halves aren't even necessarily communicating yet. I just say, your brain's not even done cooking in the oven. Let's not have such big pressure about, are you finished? So it's creating that safe space and seeing who they could be. Yeah. Just a thought I want to throw in. Mina?
I'm just wondering about, so did you have any preferred activities that you would do with your students to, help them? You said
Great
Eric
question.
Jensen's book, what was that name of the book?
Teaching with the Brain in Mind.
Okay.
So Michael is, your visual was just frozen there. Are you back, Michael?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So did you have any favorite activities that you would present to them?
You see,
Actually, I'm going to jump in and say, so it's cool when you mention a book. Kiana is over there in the attendee side, guys. Kiana works for the Institute, so anytime you hear a book or something mentioned, she'll be getting that in that post for you, so you can look at the Q&A, all of our attendees, and get those links. But for you guys, like, I want to ask. Here's an example for our participants. So participants, if you're thinking, well, what can I ask? What did they just say that I can ask something? Go ahead and ask, because I also know that all of our guests have cool little exercises and activities up their sleeves that they could do, but your questions will provoke them. But I want to ask you guys a question. Could you just say more about it? Because inside our SE kind of world, we talk a lot about getting the nervous system to a sort of regulated state, which is what we know is needed for any kind of cognitive learning to happen. But that comment that Michael said that I thought just had this really poignant pause after is like, really, schools might be the only place people ever feel safe in their life. And it doesn't matter what age group you're dealing with, right? There might be a place where school is a place of safety. Yeah, I know you guys have a special eye on safety because we get what that is to the nervous system. Can you speak a little bit inside your field as to like ways that you can cause or support or create safety in a classroom setting? Also knowing that one, if not more of our guests today is calling in from Kiev, Ukraine.
Awesome.
So let's offer exercises or thoughts or your perspective on how to create safety when there may be a sense of no safety, which I think happens in school chaos environments a lot. And we know certainly it's happening in some parts of the world in a really big way right now. I don't want to step over the fact that the world is an incredible crisis. So just wanted to name that and ask you guys. I'm sorry, that was a little wordy. What do you have to say?
Carol?
I'm put in mind of a memory. About 5 years ago, I had a former student. I had taught him when he was in high school. get in touch with me. So we're talking close to 40 years ago. Get in touch with me and meet me for breakfast. And I said, I wish I had known at the time that my leaving was something for you and that I left you with some closure, some gift, something. Because I kind of moved on in my life and I was like, okay, I finished teaching high school, now I'm going to college. And he said, well, you did. You made sure your room was a safe space for me for my 4 years of high school when I was coming out. And you don't know this, but I actually would hide in your room at night. I had a dark room built into my classroom. I would hide in the dark room when the bell was ringing, so I could wait there till everyone left the building, and then I would leave so I wouldn't get bullied.
Oh.
And I always felt safe with you. I always felt like the art room, everything was allowed. And I literally used it as a safe space to avoid those little transitions that would have put me in vulnerability. And so I've known all along, and he's telling me this now as like a 35-year-old, that I could find safety and others would make safety for me. And then he reminded me that I had actually left him a note when I left, and I don't remember, I can't remember yesterday. And the note was a little bit of Robert Frost poem that just said, stay golden. And I said, wow, I don't remember doing that. He said, I have it pinned on my studio wall. What's 40 something years later, and it's still there. And he's a professional artist, and he's comfortably married to another man, and he's successful. So I'm speaking from this point of view of way, way later, but I think it's that you create, you look at them like, wow, there's this precious, wonderful human being, and it will become everything if I just make a little nurture space. And then you make your room, if you can, that nurture space. And one of the exercises that, we use all the time in my classroom is just to pause and remember to breathe. And that's not an easy thing. But if you break that down, speaking of books, this is like the most amazing book ever for teachers right now. I don't know if you two have seen this yet. It's Maggie Klein's new book. She's a faculty SVP. Yeah, there you go, matching copies. And she talks about how do you even approach breath with someone who's so out of regulation. And she says, you just take some Post-it notes and everybody gets a bunch of them. And it might say in and pause and out and pause and notice. So nothing about deep breathing, nothing about the soul, nothing about woo, just like, can we all just notice that we're going to breathe in? And there's a little natural pause. And out, and pause. And then you tell your students, what did you notice? And then you do it again. And they've got their little instructions: in, pause, out, pause, notice. And that alone, I think, that's one of the ones I stole from Maggie already, and I'm already claiming it as my own. That alone, I think sometimes just like, all I have to do is keep breathing. And I don't even have to do it a certain way. I just have to do that. That is so much of enough. What about you, Michael? What do you use to help your kids when they're either dysregulated, or Mina? Back to you, Mina. I'm not going to pick on you. You got enough today.
I'm ready for this one.
Okay, go for it. Go for it. Teach me, brother.
My number one thing is to be present with the child and to allow them to be where they're at. So for example, if the child or children are feeling really excited or whatever, like, let's all be really excited, and we can do the quiet kind of thing, or whatever. If there's a child in front of me and he's really angry or she's really angry, and her fists are clenched, I'll be like, oh, I notice your fists are clenched, and just validating that, letting it be normal, and not trying to change it until it changes organically. So just letting them have the, and then letting that, and then when it changes, because it will change, noticing that and just helping them come through that.
So I guess I have various exercises, but the main frame that I operate on with children is that I always tell them, I see you, I hear you, and I believe you. Because I think that I was once told by a psychologist that just because the other individual's version of what happened doesn't match yours, doesn't mean that person is lying. It just means that it's his or her truth, potentially.
Yeah.
Okay. And even if the child was lying, quote unquote, which he or she may be accused, or they may be accused of, sometimes it's really important to regulate the nervous system. It's really important to de-escalate and just say, I believe you. What do you got to lose? I believe you. So that the child doesn't go more into defensive protective mode, which is something that he or she or they are already in. So
Yeah,
that's the framework. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I interrupted. I'm gonna just add something to that. I think what I'm hearing is that each of these strategies is one of many for different moments. I
Correct.
would not take a student enraged and say, breathe. I might take a student enraged and say, can you increase that 15%? Do it till you're tired. Okay, chill. I might say to them, there's a great,
Wait. Are you gonna do an exercise right now?
yeah, let's.
Oh my gosh, we need other people to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pause. Anybody in our participant set? I know you guys are teachers, so you're just like students. You're like, I'm just gonna hang out in the back and watch. It's so much more fun when you come on screen. Raise your hand if you'd be willing to come on, even if we just have a couple of you over here to do whatever exercise Carol's about to lead us through. Maybe we'll do a couple of other exercises and get some feedback about how it feels or like what's good. All right, we're gonna start moving
When I
over.
stand up to demonstrate, they're going to see that I'm wearing sweatpants on the bottom half of this outfit. So
Perfect.
the true teacher costume for Zoom.
Perfect. So as folks are coming over, oh, come on, more people raise your hand. There's one person coming. Oh, good. Okay, I don't want just not enough of you coming because then it feels too shy. So we have a few more that will be coming to join. So as they come,
I had to think of something.
screen. When you do come onto the screen, please go ahead and accept the prompt to start your video. That's how we can see you on this side. And is it okay that people are wearing sweatpants? Oh,
Sweatpants, boxers, you name it.
cool. Here comes Matilda. Here comes Samantha. All right, Carol, let's do this. I'm on with you.
Okay, so this is kind of the opposite of breathing. This is called a hookup. And this is a great one when students have that energy. So we talked about, maybe you just push a little till you're tired, or maybe you shake it out your hands. So this one, if you guys,
Mina, Michael, are you doing this too?
yeah, come on. Now, I don't have my self-image on. Can you see my whole body? Can you see my body?
Yes.
Okay, and I've got a head still? Great. Okay, so you bring your arms out like this. And you're going to do a kind of crossover and grab. And then you're going to bring it up here. You're also going to cross your feet. If you're sitting, that's fine. If you're standing, it makes it a little harder to balance, but we can do it. And then the last thing you're going to do is take your tongue and press it to the roof of your mouth, and then hold that till it's a little bit tough, and then just let it go.
Let the whole body go, Carol, or just
the whole, you got your feet crossed, you got your arms triple crossed, your tongue is pressing just on the roof of your mouth, just behind your teeth. Hold all of that in that tension, that difficultness for, 5 seconds, however you can, and then you can let it all go.
I notice it gives me like a settling in my lower back.
What do you notice? What else do you notice?
I noticed it gave me a nice release of breath.
Yeah, I noticed I have hips. I forgot I had them. I've been a talking head for 10 minutes. What about our audience? Did you notice any change or shift in your body after you relaxed?
Told Samantha, feel free to come off mute.
I carry a lot of tension in my jaw and my mouth, and I noticed the sensation of feeling more relaxed in this region.
Yeah.
Right.
Matilda?
What?
I see Matilda speaking too.
You are muted, dear friend.
I feel very relaxed, very relieved, at peace. I can now balance all of my chakras. Energy. Thank you very much, Carol.
You're welcome. And so just like a lot of the things we do in SE, that is crossing the brain medium. It is challenging your nervous system and your vestibular system to balance despite the fact that things are across that midline, and it's activating the top of your mouth, which brings it to the emotional center of your brain, the vestibular center, and causes a little bit of down regulating. It's particularly good when students are frustrated or angry, because it's hard enough that they're cool because they're doing it and they're into it, but by the time it's done, they forgot they were angry. So that's just one, and I'm sure my friends Michael and Mina have more. Samantha and Matilda, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to see you, Samantha.
Yeah, so cool. So it actually, I think Matilda, am I
Yeah.
saying that? Cool.
Yes.
That was so great that you brought up balancing chakras. We'll send you guys back to the participant side if it's okay. And then for other participants, like wherever you are at home, applaud your colleagues who came on screen and get ready to come join us. It's just, it was really fun. It starts to make a difference for others. It makes a difference for others just to see someone else trying, right? So that's one thing. And then it's just such a perfect time to have Todd also come on, you guys. Todd has the perfect question that comes up in our little world, in somatic experiencing. We're kind of, I like his words about it more than my words. So I'm not going to say, but I'll let him ask a question. And I bet you've all had to think about this in relation to your world. So he's coming over right now to ask you a question. Okay. How was that for you,
I don't
Carol?
really have a camera, but I do have a voice. Haha.
Oh, good. All right.
Glad you have a voice, use it.
So I've been very fascinated with this, kind of doing my own study on my own. And I'm out here in the rural Intermountain West, and even professionals question what I'm doing when I'm trying to integrate somatic psychotherapy, polyvagal stuff, let alone in a school system, in a school district. It's kind of, as I put it, it's kind of ooga booga, even to the professional realm of people that don't even know, because they're more heavy focused on trauma focused cognitive behavioral therapy. That is the big push out here. A little bit of stuff is starting to kick on as I'm a retired military guy. CPT has been introduced, and so we're using a little bit of CPT, but this somatic stuff is ooga booga for people.
Yeah.
How do you get them to buy in? How do you get the sell where they're embracing it versus constantly dismissing or pushing against the suggestions or the things?
Thanks for asking that question.
Todd,
Thank you for hearing me.
Todd, I think that I'm not sure of the population in your area, but what would you say is the opposite of, what did you say, ooga booga? What's the opposite? What would be the opposite of ooga booga?
That's kind of a weird question. I've never asked it.
That's a great question too.
But to me, and in my own perception, opposite of ooga booga is embracing and getting it and participating and engaging with. It's like I've tried to bring Tai Chi here, Qigong. And it's kind of, unless it's in a gym or certain dojos, they're not having it.
Okay, so Todd, so you're here and the people who think it's ooga booga are over here. And it sounds to me like it's necessary to have some stepping stones or a bridge for the gap, right?
Right.
And most of the time, the people who think that things are ooga booga, when you tell them that there is a scientific basis to it, then it lends a little bit more credibility. And so our feelings, our behaviors, our thoughts, actions, they are determined by our nervous system,
Right.
below or above our awareness. In other words, we don't make conscious choices until we see ourselves, until we notice that, oh, I'm getting pissed off, or oh, I'm being a little bit aggressive. But when you understand the autonomic nervous system, the hierarchy, and this is what's so beautiful about the polyvagal theory and somatic experiencing together, is because somatic experiencing helps you cultivate awareness of your body's felt sensations, right? And the polyvagal theory allows that cognitive part of your brain that makes sense to understand that the behaviors are really kind of, not the particulars, but in general are kind of predictable.
You know, Mina, I'm wondering, I think our guest knows all of that, but the question is how to convince somebody who doesn't trust that. So you're
Well-
kind of,
Well,
you're sort of saying, point them to the science and say, this is proven.
so
Or-
question, I love that because I've read a lot of different peer-reviewed journals and different articles, and so it's almost nerdy in a way.
Yeah.
But could you suggest some peer-reviewed journal articles or some of the things that, not the stuff that goes into the the chi-square and all that weird stuff, but more of the roots to the ground. This is why it's such a big deal, and you get out of the headspace of kids and adults and I use the body keeps the score a lot, but even that is questioned and doubted unless people are willing to look at it.
You may want to just try the intro to this book.
Yeah, I actually just grabbed it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you also may take a look at this polyvagal exercises for safety and connection by
Okay.
Dana. It's
Oh,
fantastic.
she rocks.
It's
I'm wondering if you're trying to
Carol,
convince.
just one second.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And also accessing the healing power of the vagus nerve,
Okay.
which is by Stanley Rosenberg, who is taking OT approach to this as well.
Well, thank you.
I'd like to weigh in.
I have a couple of them, but there's a few I don't have.
Okay, I hope that was helpful.
Yes.
So, Todd, also, one of the things that I've experienced in schools is where I'm doing a little bit of SE intervention with a child, and then another adult will come and say, well, just go to the principal's office or something like that, and completely shatter the work that has just been done.
Right.
And I think what would be important is somehow getting the consciousness, and that's why I agreed to today's session, is to try and bring somatic experiencing and polyvagal type exercises and the theory itself and so on into the consciousness of the teaching population and the greater population. And so today's session is a step in that direction, one of those stepping stones that Mina referenced. And also, I would love it, for example, if Mina or Carol would, for example, if they would go and go into a school district and offer professional development.
Oh, yes.
Schools, like people like the my colleagues here, or you yourself, Todd, just going out there and offering this stuff in professional development and allowing the teachers to get a hold of this stuff. And once it reaches a critical mass, that's all people will talk about. they'll be like, how has it ever been any other way?
I've actually done sort of that, sir, with Brain Gym.
Okay, very
And
cool.
I've tried to use that to help say, this is why it's so powerful. But thank you guys for letting me be part of this. One day I might be one of you guys and be kind of that person that people go to.
You may
Todd.
already be one.
What a perfect cue. You're one of us. We're all in this together, brother. We're
We're
all
all-
one and the same. There's your hippie ooga booga comment for all of us. Hey, listen, I want to add something right here because what you all have shared is extraordinary. Mina, thank you for guiding that through that. Thank you, Carol, for bringing us where you did, and Michael, where you did. It's really, you can see the diversity of perspectives makes a whole picture, right? Here's one other thing I want to add. If you are on this and you do want to learn about somatic experiencing, I promised you this wasn't going to be a commercial, so it's not. But our website is traumahealing.org. And we have on there a training calendar because the training is a 3-year-long thing. We have a training calendar where you can sign up for the 3-year program. But what I want to bring your attention to is there's also something called Basics. Basics is a 3-hour introduction to somatic experiencing that I think could be really helpful for educators. And the massage therapists who said they were also here, there's a few of you, different kinds of folks. Anybody who wants to know about somatic experiencing, our thank you for you being here today is that we'd like to give you free access to that. Woo, woo, woo. So please email, Kiana will put this in the Q&A chat for you, where you're also going to write some more questions for our guests. Please email publichealth@traumahealing.org and let us know a little bit about you. What's your profession? Where are you? And we will get you that code to take the basics class. It is a live class. It happens once a month. It's live online. It's taught by different SE practitioners. Yeah, so that's what we can offer you. Also, I'm really excited. This is kind of the perfect time to say this. To your issues, Todd, about like, how do you get them all into this whole therapeutic modality? Maybe people are like, hey, teachers aren't supposed to be talking about trauma. That's outside your scope. Okay, sure. But we have a new program coming out of SEI this year. Stay tuned. It's called the Crisis Stabilization and Safety Program. It is a 4-day peer support program designed to take all these sort of SE trauma resolution concepts and bring them down to a real bottom level that practitioners like yourselves can just use on a day-to-day basis. It's just a bunch of tools, resources, how to support each other, how to be aware of your own nervous system and its impact on the kind of group energy, the group vibe. We found other hippie word, the group co-resonance of the collective. Now I'm just messing with the ooga booga. But really, it's designed for first responders, police, fire, EMS, dispatch, but also medical professionals, also teachers and educators. So it's a short, compact program to be able to really get access to how to use this stuff in your field. So if you're interested in that, Kiana will also put another post where there is a CSS interest form. And we would love to have you attend one of our pilots, be an end user tester to let us know if it's good. Mina and Carol are actually training to be facilitators in that program. So huge shout out to them for being willing to jump in the deep end as we develop these new things. So that's your commercial break. Yes, ma'am.
Ami, I also wanted to mention to Todd that that these sessions, these programs that Ami is talking about, the facilitator trainings, they are not lectures, they're experiential.
Really key. Mina, thank you. That's what we know, Todd. Like, you might not be able to get all the administrative buy-in. I really liked, Michael, your response about how we could really create a campaign to go speak to school boards and school administration kind of as advocates of that whole science that Mina was describing the details and Carol was like, let's just tell them it's just science. Like, just get with it. Like, all of that. Like, we need our advocacy. We need our own lobbying around this. Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm put in mind on me of working in part of this crisis stabilization training that Mina and I are doing. I went with Ami to the Bayou, and we were there a couple months after the Hurricane Ida. And this is my first exposure to this type of training, and I'm following Ami around, and she's going up to people on the street and saying, how you doing? How you doing? Is everything okay? How'd it go after that? And then she'd go, hey, let me show you a cool trick. Some neuro geeks made this up. Check this out. It helps.
Yeah.
And she would just launch into a demonstration of a settling or regulating exercise with somebody on the street. And as soon as she said, a bunch of scientists figured this out, let's do it now. They were like, why not? This other beautiful storm personality just came into my life. I'll do this little thing on the sidewalk. And I was amazed at when you don't let them say no, but you just sweep them in, then it isn't that they're afraid you're going to replace what they believe in. It's that you're adding what we have to what they believe, because probably they say no because they're not safe.
Really. And so you can get your students safe, right? You guys are talking about how to get students safe, but let's just acknowledge, how do we get administrations
To feel safe.
because it's a really different question. We're all out there doing the best we can with what we have, aren't we? So you guys really know that. So I'll jump off screen. What you all have to share is so much more interesting, but maybe you have some more questions for each other. One last shout out, traumahealing.org/SECC will get you to a page where you could put a little donation, a little coffee donation, $1.50. Where can you get coffee in the world for $1.50? You can't anymore. But if you could make a little donation there, it lets us know, if we got the donations while this was going on, that this was good programming for you, that you're interested and that you like it. So we just thank you in advance. We are a charitable nonprofit organization, and we do this stuff because we love you, not because we're charging. But please, if you're interested in becoming a donor, we would love to help you help us grow this or work with us in any way. All right, I'm going to jump off. Who's got a question for each other?
Michael.
Yes, Mina.
So Michael, my experience has been, it's not just about students feeling aroused and kind of uneasy or have overwhelm in their body and in their mind and they can't pay attention. My experience is that it's not a question of fixing anybody. And a lot of it has to do with the teachers also being able to, basically what I was trying to describe to Todd was befriend, get to know their nervous system.
Yeah.
And so how do you, Michael, create this cool, calm, and safe environment? What do you do to yourself?
Well, thank you, Mina, for asking. Well, number one thing, and I think it's key to any type of interactions one has, whether it's in this kind of a format or you're dealing with a crisis right in front of you, and that is to be present. Is to find your sense of presence, find your feet on the floor, find where's your breath at right now, as opposed to where it should be at, and to then find that sense of acceptance of your own body's regulating itself or moving towards dysregulation or whatever's going on, so that you can come back into a sense of self, a sense of presence. And that is then mirrored for the person in front of you. So accessing the mirror neurons, for example, so that you can then present in a certain way, rather than going and rushing to a person going, oh, I'm so dysregulated, I don't know what's going on in my classroom, or, oh my God, you hurt yourself, that's terrible, let's deal with that. And your own sense of emergency will then be reflected to them. And that I don't think really serves a lot of the time. Better to find that sense of, okay, I got this, I can deal with this, I know what to do next.
But don't you think teachers need support to be able to access that, cultivate it on a daily basis? Carol, I mean, last time you and I corresponded, you said, I'm putting out some fires in my department. And it's like, well, who did you call? Ghostbusters or the fire department?
Yeah. In the answer to that, even in a context like this, where we're all pretty comfortable talking to colleagues, I notice I'm getting excited. I notice, oh, I want to reach out to these teachers. I notice you and I, every time we speak, Mina, one or the other cuts each other off because we're equally excited at the same time. And then I notice, oh, find my seat, be present, be curious. So just to comment on that, I can't promise I won't continue to cut you off, but I love when you tell me not to. It's a great balance. It makes me feel like I'm back in that family of 9 I grew up in.
No problem.
You know, I think one of the ways we do this every day is that old, make sure your oxygen mask is on before you put it on someone else. And if you're in the middle of putting out fires or supporting people in struggle, you don't need to take a week at the spa, but you might need to take 5 minutes of saying, what am I doing? I'm walking into this rehearsal of a college conservatory program to offer a little perspective on the content these students have in this play, which may be highly traumatizing. Why am I doing this? Because I want to hold them while they hold this content, while they offer to their audience, while we bring it out into the world. Okay. I got me. Go make a container for them. And then at the end of the day, I can relax. But I think, it is that taking care of yourself and modeling it, Mina, and I think that, the more I work in this community of therapists and SE, the more I learned the little trick that I didn't know as a teacher, which is that I don't have to be on to be effective. And now I still teach and I do, presentations and consultations and therapy. So which hat am I wearing? But the best one for teaching now is actually, hey, I see you guys. It's been a tough year, huh?
And I really like what you said several times throughout today's session, and that is be curious. Be curious about yourself, be curious about what's going on, be curious about the container that you're creating for yourself and for others. And I love that idea of just bringing curiosity into your life rather than, because that to me is presence as well. It's like, what's happening right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the curiosity in the fact that it's an unfolding process.
Pardon me?
The curiosity, we're not just looking into, I'm not looking, at you as a done deal. I'm looking at you as a person in process. I'm wondering, not just this minute, but, how'd you get here? Where are you going?
Yeah,
and make it safe for a minute.
And I think that what both of you are saying is so important to say that word curiosity and model curiosity so that maybe the students will also use that for themselves, become curious about themselves, where they're at.
I wonder if this is a chance to maybe ask our audience to pause and just notice what they're feeling. We've been throwing out a lot of stuff from 3/4 of the country.
On cue.
Ami is here. Yay.
Invite them to pause and check in and relate with us if they're not shy. If anyone wants to come join us on the screen, would you raise your hand and maybe we'll do a little bit around pausing and settling.
It's almost like we pause the content to just look at us and go, oh, look, all these people together. How do I feel being in this group, teachers together today?
You know what I love about doing this series? Each time we do it with different kinds of professionals or different kinds of subject matter. If you're not familiar with the series, traumahealing.org/conversations has a lot of past ones. But we did one on men's mental health. We did them on medical responders. And it's funny how the different community of attendees wants to engage. I really love that. The teachers are a little shyer. So, all right, we have one coming over. As soon as I have 2 hands raised, can I get 2 hands? One person is volunteering and I just don't want to put them on the spot by themselves.
I mean, that sounds like an auction. Can I get 2? Can I get 2?
Can I get 2? Can I get 2? Let's get 2. Can we get 3? Can we come on?
I
Come on.
know I have at least 3 friends out there in the world. Come on, I'll buy you coffee tomorrow.
Yay.
Exactly. But I just while we're waiting, I think that the whole idea of listening, being curious, yes, but also the concept of listening to the language of your body, which is expressed through sensation, right? I don't know if you're ever at the dentist or at the doctor and they say, well, what's the pain like? I don't know what it's painful, but they want to know what is it sharp? Is it dull? Is it hot? Is it cold? So the language that your body communicates to you has the message, right? So listening, together is so valuable.
And
Yeah,
for
and what
any
I've found
students,
is people often don't have the language to share what they're hearing. And that's part of the process is figuring out how to use language for our experiences that doesn't actually quite match what I'm sensing, but it's close enough. And the psyche will then, attribute what it can to say, well, it's hot. I guess it's hot, or it's light, or it's something else.
this is also a great time for elementary school teachers to use the arts to increase the student's ability to notice what they're experiencing. It might be, I feel this clay is wet and clammy. Have you ever felt wet and clammy in your body? I feel this is rough and I don't like this texture. How do you know you don't like it? Because it makes me feel scratchy. It makes me feel crunchy. When I use this paintbrush, Deb Dana has a lot of exercises that use the arts, but when I use this paintbrush, I feel like I'm ice skating. It's flowy. Hi, Matilda.
Rabia,
And
and
Rabia.
Matilda. Rabia, I think, is how we pronounce that lovely name. And Matilda with like the at the end. Okay, we're getting okay. Names matter. It's really important, I think, that we all take the time to actually really say that names matter. I know you've been used to people getting it wrong your whole life, and it matters here. Okay, that's all. Amen.
So the question was, what are you noticing in yourself as we're
Okay, so you
Sharing
can
this
go ahead and
time.
come off mute if you like. And then, yeah, Carol, Mina, Michael, you want to lead us on some settling? We talked about maybe it was getting a little activation.
sure?
We've been talking about like, oh, tensions in the room. I mean, that's risky, right? It brings a sense of a little activation, but what do we do to
Yeah.
settle ourselves?
So
What do you got, Michael?
one approach is to just find out what you're noticing and where you might be noticing it. So, for example, let's say there's a sense of activation, maybe this rising up or something like that. So to notice that where you notice it in your body. And so Matilda or Rabia, what do you notice as you're here put on the spot? And you're on mute as far as I can tell.
Both of you.
I feel very relaxed. I'm a
Yeah.
clinical psychologist here in Miami, Florida. And listening to all of the panelists, I wish you would be here to instruct all of the educators in Miami-Dade County, which come from different countries. And for them, anything that deals with psychology or within that vicinity, they run away from. And the school system here is tremendously not performing to their specifications whatsoever. And this type of healing modality, I think it would soothe those individuals that don't speak the language to begin with, and that they come from a different background from Latin America, Central, and the Caribbean, that doesn't know or understand the American culture.
So Matilda, as you pay attention to that sense of relaxation, is there a center for it or a place where it's kind of residing in your body?
Yes, in my solar plexus, right in front of my healing capacity. It's very relaxing for me, but I do a lot of meditation too.
So like Manipura,
You know, I do a lot of Reiki,
Reiki.
Shiatsu, yoga.
Wonderful.
I do that type of modality and I try to incorporate that within my psychotherapy and hypnotherapy practice.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And so as you pay attention to your solar plexus, what is it like there?
Oh God, oh, wonderful. It's radiant, yellow,
Yellow.
yellow, reddish color that soothes and calms, and it's very comforting and it's very empowered. And I get to that place on a daily basis since I deal with so much traumatic children and people. And that's the bulk of my practice. So I have to center myself a lot throughout the hours that I'm in the office.
That's quite a resource to have that solar plexus right there, along
Yeah.
with all the practices you have. And it helps keep that balance that you would.
And not
helps-
only that, it's that I work with domestic violence victim, human trafficking, HIV, AIDS, and a lot of difficult treatments that I do as well. So I do a lot of things that is very negative for people. So I have to extract a lot of their negativity. So my office is surrounded with all types of crystals and venues so that they can relax and feel that good energy.
Seems like you're modeling what you hope they can learn.
Yes, yes, I try to.
and
I
resources.
try spiritually, religiously. Yes.
I'm gonna come in like like when you're at a play and the actors are on the stage and thing is going on,
Psychodrama.
and then someone comes out of the play and says, let's talk about what we see going on here. I'm gonna do that for a minute because what we just started to see, I know Carol and Mina were tracking this, is Michael was starting to work with you, Matilda.
Yes,
Like,
yes, I
starting
know.
to like, you were talking about, your resources. And it was clear you were thinking about them. Like you were really bright, intelligent, and clear. So articulate. It's really nice to be with you.
Oh,
And then
thank
he was
you.
like, he was trying to get you in that moment to really like touch into that solar
Mhm.
plexus. And as you did, I think all of us who were here with you could see a little bit of lighting up. And it was
Yes.
very clear how resourced you were. So
Yeah.
something he did in our SE world is
Wish
he
I
made-
can't, I never have that opportunity to speak to someone like yourselves, because like I've said before, there's very, very few people that have the knowledge of what all of this is about in Miami-Dade County. For
Let's get some
them,
trainings in Florida, lady. I'm in Escambia
Please.
County. I'm on the other end of your world right now. So yeah, but I just want to say this just for everybody who's watching too, if it's okay, right? What he did is right at that moment, you kind of bloomed, and I think we all could see it,
yes, I
And
felt
you-
it.
right? You were feeling it.
Yes.
Michael got real like just calm and quiet and really just stayed with you.
Mhm.
And then he named for you, oh, that's a really nice resource.
Yes.
And it was almost like he took what you were giving him,
Mhm.
and it's like he gave it back to you. So now you could really hold it as a resource. You already had it as a resource, but once he named it, you even
And
held
take it with
more.
me.
And then
for
you
that
sat
trust.
in it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you sat in it. You started giving us the colors, and we could feel, oh yeah, that's probably why you're someone who raised your hand and jumped on screen and had that like you're the resourced by this way you view your world, right?
Yes, yes.
And then as you did that, I just want to point out, as you did that, then you took another moment and you started to share, I'm working with domestic violence and HIV. It was like there was a wave. Did you guys notice it was like there was
Yeah.
a little wave? Like now that I have that resource, and Michael just really brought you physically
And
to
open it and touched it and intervene.
yeah.
I can say what I really do, and I'm
Well-
passionate about it.
Well, and you went to a part that was maybe a little bit more activated, a little bit more painful. It's one thing to say, hey, I really love life and it's great, and I'm a cool psychologist, I do this cool stuff. But it's another thing to say, hey, working with domestic violence and trafficking. It's like, oh, there's a gravity there.
Yeah.
It's just doing what SC practitioners do, which is little tiny waves, little tiny waves. And I just want to name that for anyone who's watching, because as you do these little exercises that have been coming up in this session, there's little tiny waves. It's not like, oh, activation's got to get more, worse. It's like you give a little resource and then a little bit of attention.
It's baby steps.
That's it. Something like that. Exactly. Sure.
Steps that you take with you and you hone into it, and then you bring more of that knowledge within you to activate yourself even further and go deeper into your own inner strength.
That's right.
Yeah.
Inner resourcing. And knowing that your own inner teacher, your own inner guide is there
Mhm.
to help you along for all the hard stuff that you have to do in life.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful that while Michael is guiding Matilda and Ami is the critic fly on the wall, let's take a moment to see what happened. Rabea is patiently waiting, and Mina and I are self-regulating, that everyone is witnessing this. It knows it can be done in public, knows it can be done with others, that we don't have to be alone. As you said, who else here in Florida-Dade County? Well, we're not there, but we're here
Exactly.
practicing that, seeing you, being with,
Mhm.
huh, what do we notice?
And Mina's, I believe you. I believe you.
And we believe,
I
yeah.
see you, I hear you, I believe you.
And I'm going to stay with you a little while.
Well, it's so also again, breaking the fifth wall. For those of you watching at home, you're not watching, you're participating. You know you're with us. You can feel it. You can feel that you're with Matilda right now, with Rabia, with all of us, right? But there's something about just knowing that, like, Matilda gets a lot of resource from the crystals and the things, like it's your ooga booga stuff, Tony. Like, oh, some people are really set by that. But another person might just have come on and had a very different resource. Like, we could explore with Rabia now a little bit of like, is there any activation about being on screen, whatever Michael was wanting to do there. I know, I'll step back in a moment, but there might be very different things that might still show up as resources. But as you get someone in touch with their resources, they start to do some interesting settling.
Mhm.
Mina
Well,
and Rabia.
I have been, I feel that this work, this approach is just so rich to embed in curriculi from daycare to 12th grade and beyond.
Mhm.
Because, and on different levels, because it's interdisciplinary, it's neurobiology. And of course, you're not going to teach neurobiology to children who are 3 years old or 2 years old, but it can be presented in many different ways. And one of the ways is to get to know your biology.
Mhm.
So, and the vocabulary for it, the language for it.
Will you give it, since we got cool Rabia and Matilda on screen?
Yeah.
You're going to do an exercise? Okay, cool. Let's
I'm
do
doing
it.
an exercise. So, Rabia, are you sitting comfortably?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Are your feet on the ground?
Yes.
Wonderful. And so we're going to just scan your body, right? Starting with your feet. And we're scanning your body for tension or ease, like where you feel what in your body. And maybe you don't feel anything, and that's okay. But we're just going to do that. And support, of course, right? So do you feel your feet supported on the ground?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to gently kind of roll our feet on the ground from the heel to the toe, right? Just a couple of times to really suck in the energy of the earth. And we're going to move up towards our knees, our noticing, and then our thighs, and maybe feel our thighs on the chair, right? And our buttocks also, if they're supported there. And then you can maybe feel your back as you move upward. Maybe it's leaning against the back of your chair. And then your arms, starting with your fingers, going up to your shoulders, especially the shoulders. They are the water carriers, you know, that heavy load for many of us. And then especially the neck, the back of it, any sensations, and then into your head space, right? And just take a few breaths and see what you notice. Or not.
I actually noticed I was really like tense in like the neck and the shoulder area. I feel like that's where like a lot of us carry like the weight, trying to like hold up our posture. So like really noticing that and relaxing it, it makes a big difference.
Right. And where did you feel ease in your body?
I think around like my legs, just knowing that they're supported by the floor, just keeping your feet flat on the ground, I think helps your legs feel really supported.
And so there are a couple of things. If you are feeling tense, you remember people would say, sit up straight. And then 2 minutes later, you slide back into this. Sit up straight. Well, that is your body's habitual posture. And it's below your awareness, right? And so one of the things that we do is we farm out our bodies to other professionals, our minds to the psychologists, our bodies to the doctors or OT or whatever. But actually, by befriending our own body, we can do a lot ourselves, especially with the shoulders. We can move them. We can also massage the back of our necks. These little muscles in the back, they get so tight that they actually may even impinge on the blood flow into your brain. So you can actually touch them and massage them. And also this part with 2 fingers around your ears, right? Especially for those people.
Everybody at home, try that. It's different than you might think.
Yeah,
Like, we're making like little circles right in here.
yeah. With your,
And we're getting close to time, Mina.
yeah. And it also, you know, circling around the jaw, because a lot of us carry a lot of tension in the jaw area, right? So, and then finally, just with your knuckles, just going like this. I love this one, but it might be just particular to me. I love it.
Facial
temple.
massage.
Huh? What is that?
Facial, that's called facial massage. I do that with my Reiki patients.
It's facial.
And facial massage.
Yeah.
And I have little instruments that I do the therapy for them, and they fall asleep.
Yes. So actually, it's also the cranial nerves around your eyes and your mouth that are so important for teachers to be aware of, because the way you look at your students, the way your mouth sets, if it's unconscious, can be, and you're upset, can be very frightening. So to be aware of your eyes and your mouth area, and to help the students feel their body and also give them the power to actually hold themselves in communication. That would be awesome.
Okay.
So maybe we can take this to a kind of whole group thing. And I'm thrilled that we have these 2 participants who have witnessed this. Maybe we could just ask you to come again, please, soon. And maybe.
And is it tomorrow?
You're great.
It's monthly, very
Yeah.
wonderful.
Is it tomorrow?
That's
So
great.
that I can start in my day.
You're hilarious.
You've got
We-
your resources.
We do this the second Friday of every month. So you can find out about this on our Facebook. However you found out about it, you can find out again, but we advertise it on our Facebook page. There's always a Zoom place to register if anybody is watching live on Facebook. Rabia,
you.
Matilda, thank you
I
for being
found
willing.
you. I found
you.
you in the
Oh,
link.
oh,
In
great.
LinkedIn. So,
Oh, cool. Yeah, find us on LinkedIn, anything. We are going to send Rabia, Matilda, we're going to send you back to the panelist side for now. So thank you for being with us. And I'm doing that in part because I know this is already a shocker to all of us, but we're kind of at time. Like it flies. I promise you it would fly. It seems like people are still pretty here. About 60% of the guests are here. A handful of people just left because we hit time. You guys want to stay on for a couple more minutes, or is this a great place to wrap up? I'll let you all determine what feels good.
I'm good either way.
Yeah,
I'd
let's
love
just
to
see
stay
if
a
there's
couple
any
I'm
other
having a good
questions.
time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in the question and chat area, there is another one from Priscilla Hermida. Priscilla, if you are willing to come on screen, we're going to unmute you so you can just tell us audibly if you would be willing to come on screen. And ask your question.
If you need to, you can do some massage first.
I feel so much better, Mina. Thank you.
Hi,
So if you'd like to come on screen, go ahead and bring your video online. If not, you're free to answer the question that you asked, or ask the question that you asked.
sure. Can you
Ask it.
hear me?
We can.
Hi. Hi. Oh, I'm listening to this super interesting talk from Quito, Ecuador. I don't have a camera with me, but I also have a voice, as the previous person said. So I wanted to ask you, I just want to hear ideas about how of feeling sensations in the body and felt sense to students like my students. I am a college professor. I teach economics. And I find that it would be very, very difficult to introduce some of these ideas to my young male students in particular, because due to cultural reasons, it may seem to them that feeling sensations in the body, even if they are very mild ones, it's not something young men or men do in general. So I know that's a very difficult, sorry, a very difficult or wide topic to talk about. But since this is a place to ask questions, I would just like to hear what you have to do, to say about it. And thank you very much for this afternoon.
I think that Michael is the young man, representative of the young men population. So
Oh, Mina. To answer your question, Priscilla, the best I can, if a person isn't able to access, or culturally or for whatever reason, sensation, there's other means at your disposal, like imagery. For example, it feels like a heavy weight, and people will use that imagery rather than like a sensation in their body, even though that was kind of both. Or it feels like I got punched in the stomach, or it feels like I feel nauseous or sick. And so there's already language around sensation that is not sensation based, that we could access. It could also be behavior, some sort of behaviors that they can notice, like for example, like the crunchy of the face, and you could just say, oh yeah, I noticed that your face is very, crunched. I'm wondering what's going on for you in that moment, bringing that idea of curiosity into it, and then letting them explore it. So there is that. I don't know if that's something that you might find helpful, or if Mina or Carol have something to add.
I actually do have something that might. I wonder to our guests if the idea of what a young man believes he should be feeling might be so going to the resource of when you feel strong, how does your body sit? When you're playing sports, what do you notice in your shoulders? Is there a moment when you know you can handle growing up, So going, instead of things that might be termed emotional or soft or delicate, starting with something that is valued in the culture, which is that, do you feel you could hold the world, you're stable, you're strong? It might be a way to begin the conversation, because I think they will feel that and probably be proud to model that. And then they've begun. But it doesn't even have to be interoception. It doesn't have to be that they even feel in. But if you feel this texture versus this texture, which do you prefer? How do you know you prefer it? If you hear this music versus this music, which does your body respond to? How do you know? You want to move to that. But that other one you don't want to. So again, what Michael was saying, that there's sensations, but there's also images, there's behaviors, and it doesn't have to always be in one's body. And it doesn't always have to be subtle. It could be bold. I love heavy metal because it makes me feel strong.
That's
Mina, what about you? Anything you can add to that?
I think you and Michael did a fantastic job. I'd have to think about it, but I think we're also maybe at the end of our presentation. So
Is that helpful to our guests?
so I'm me.
There she is.
Priscilla, did that give you something great to work with?
Sorry, I wanted to say thank you. Actually, I hadn't thought of either of the suggestions, and I think that definitely works. Thanks so much again. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
you,
Priscilla.
Priscilla.
Thank you for joining us from Ecuador. Guys, this has been a really global audience today. I just really want to just be amazed together that this hasn't been a global audience, that none of us are alone in the world, that the interest you have is shared around the planet. So just let that like a resource in.
I mean, what are some of the countries represented?
Well, we just had Ecuador, right? And then we had the Ukraine, and I think I saw a few different countries in Europe and South America. So
Nice.
yes, so I didn't do the thing I normally do, which is I ask everyone to chime in all their countries today. So I'm sorry I didn't have that for you. I have another question that I'd love to bring a gal on screen who actually I was in SE training with, sweet Kiana. We're going to be bringing her over to ask you all a question. You know how exciting it gets when we get to see others we did our SE training with together. So she'll be coming over to ask you a good one. She's learning SE and working with a lot of therapists. So go ahead, Kiana, go ahead and start your video, and I'll jump off screen and let you all chat, and then we'll try to wrap up in just a few couple of minutes. Hi, Kiana.
Hi,
Good to see your face.
Ami. Good to see your face too. Hello, everyone. Thank you for this amazing, it's been great, this community conversation. I have several clients that are teachers. So I still have one more module to finish my SEP. And these teachers are really experiencing workplace trauma and dealing not only with the dysregulation of students, but also the dysregulation and trauma experiences from the parents and how they mirror their dysregulation, of course, at home, and the children pick up on it, but also a lot of dysregulation within the school systems. And so teachers are really, really feeling now that there's COVID, some teachers are experiencing long COVID symptoms and still having to work. And so I do SEP through the lens of yoga. I'm a yoga therapist. And so work with COVID, long COVID sufferers. So anyone can speak to the multifaceted issues teachers face, experiencing secondary trauma?
Absolutely.
One thing I
Carol
would,
is ready to talk.
yeah, one thing I would say about that is the first thing is to recognize, maybe even assume, we have all experienced trauma in these last few years. and those who had traumas pre-existing have been reactivated. So even when you see your colleague in the coffee room or the faculty lounge, even when you meet with an administrator about a budget issue or an enrollment issue, maybe we assume that we have to take care of each other and check on safety before we even go to the subject matter. And I have gone from thinking my students are in and I'm in charge of the curriculum to when they get in, I check just real quick, are they actually even present? Let me assume that they're showing up here today is a big deal. Let me name, hey, you showed up. Good for you. Good enough is okay right now, as long as we do it together. So to give you more specifics, we need a few more community conversations, and I'm sure Ami will plan it, but let's all just show up with some kindness and some understanding that we've all been through this. And before we get on to business, just say, hey, yeah, showed up. I see you. I don't know if that's helpful, but I think it's where we have to start.
Yeah, that's
and
an important start.
feed on that, and just to say as well to it's important to wherever you can find it, whether it's through yoga or some other means, to have these teachers building their capacity and resilience so that they can be prepared when they go to school to meet the challenges that they're going to face, and that can be very daunting. Especially if they're feeling already overwhelmed in their day-to-day life, and then they go to school and it's overwhelming as well, and then that's what can create some sort of chronic trauma response.
Yeah.
And so to find ways and means, and of course, as Carol pointed out, like we could actually have a whole session just on building resilience for teachers or other people who are in this chronic state of exposure to triggering events or traumatic causing events. And I think there already are some. And I'm waiting for me to pop up and say, hey, by the way.
Yeah,
exactly. Hi, Ami. But can I just quickly say something, Ami? I think what you're talking about, Kiana, is actually a crisis. It qualifies as a crisis.
Absolutely.
And that's I mean, it's like when you don't know what's going on, right? Because it's all intertwined and twisted, then you need to unpack it. And I think that the crisis stabilization and safety programs really go a long way with that. And then to create a community around that keeps on meeting.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, when Ami, when you made that statement about the crisis response, oh, that was perfect. I'm going to tell all the teachers that I know about that.
And tell your administrators that, Ami can bring in a team that can work on the one-on-one variations of what they're struggling with, and commend them for showing up to therapy, for doing that work.
Yeah, because one of the
coffee
things
before you teach, now you need therapy before you teach.
Yeah, they're so inundated with so many different elements. Working the SE within the session, the yoga therapy session has brought really great experiences for them, but there's so many components. Sometimes, really needing to slow everything down has been, a good challenge for me as a SEP student still. And so thank you very much for creating this conversation.
This is awesome. It's so nice to see you here. It's so
Good to see you too.
wonderful. Like, we're really building a community of wellness in the world. Like, really, it's not just some big hippie construct or some other conference around embodiment or somatic or whatever stuff online. Like, we really
How
need
many
to
practitioners are there in the world who are doing the SEP now? Just roughly.
Well, so there's about 100,000, maybe 125,000 people around the globe who've been trained in SE techniques. I think we have more than 35,000 SEPs around the globe, and at least 42 countries that we're aware of, and offering trainings in those places. So it really is a global concept, and kind of like Michael said, when it hits that point of enough people are on board, then it starts to become just a sort of normal part of our conversation, our expectations. So Viana, really, really great to be with you. Let's connect some more about the crisis and stabilization too.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, fantastic. Because to all of you out there, we will be really delivering this crisis stabilization and safety program. One of the things I just want to share as we wrap up is you can see on your screen, you just see, screenshot this or go to www.traumahealing.org/scope. This is a series of short exercises. That's one tool in the crisis stabilization and safety program. There's just a lot of small interventions that you can be integrating into the classroom even as a teacher. Let's say it's like you're almost a peer supporter to the other teachers, and not that you're a peer perhaps to your student, but your own body and well-being does impact the quality of what's going on in the room. You know that. So really would love to work with you all more. Thank you in a huge way, Carol, Michael, Mina. You did not disappoint. I knew having teachers on here was going to be great. We were all going to learn so much from you. You're just so extraordinary and really, really wise. So we'll post this on YouTube where if you want to get in touch with these folks, you'll be able to see in the comments underneath the video ways to get in touch with them, work with them. They are probably available for consultations, perhaps sessions. We also have an SE practitioner directory on the website where you can find an SE practitioner in your area if you'd like to do some SE sessions yourself. Michael kind of started to lead us a little bit on what those show up like. It's not a lot of talk therapy. It's a lot of go mining for resources and then get access to some stability and healing beyond what you've ever experienced, right? So great to be with you all. Leaving us, I'm going to ask one of, now this is hard because you're all geniuses and you're all wise, but one of you I want to ask to send us out with a word about if we left teachers with one kind of pithy thought in closing to really support them in their work. What might you have to share?
Start befriending your nervous system, getting to know it, and harness its power to process your life. It makes life so much easier.
Yeah. I'd give a big yes to that. Everybody else? Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you guys. This is a wrap. Applause to you all. Thank you so much. We'll see you next month. Stay tuned for what the topic is about and get in touch with us about crisis stabilization and safety. You can always email us at publichealth@traumahealing.org for any information about any of our programs. We're more than happy to be in touch with you or to connect you to these incredible professionals who are our superstars. Thank you, all, the three of you and all the participants.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
One.